Hello guys, welcome to episode 1 of the Ben and Glen podcast. Today we're going to discuss areas around hip impingement. Yeah, so we've got a few questions coming through our teaching, through our courses. We get a lot of questions from physios, but we also get a lot of questions from just general population and general public wanting to know a little bit more about the hip, particularly impingement. So we've got a question here from Matt from London. He's asking what the typical presentation of an FAI is in clinic. But I think before we answer that, myself and Ben, and we've got Bob with us today as well. It's worth just explaining a little bit about what FAI is in simple terms. So FAI, or Femoro-Acetabular impingement, is basically the formation of extra bone on one or two of the bones that make up the hip. So we've got the femur here, we've got the acetabulum, or the hip joint, the ball and socket. So you can get extra bone that will grow in this region, which we would call a cam lesion, yeah, or you can get extra bone growth around this acetabular rim, which we'll call a pincer impingement, and quite often you can get a little bit of both as well. So obviously you can see that when this happens and we start to move the hip around, it can cause irritation and can, after a period of time, cause damage to the soft tissues and the joint itself.
I think a key point to mention there would be is it's a common variation, but 20 to 25% of the population have that, so it's not mean like you have it. It's going to always damage you,
Exactly.
So generally we find like most of our clients. So what sort of clients, age group would you see in your clinic with these problems?
I think this is a younger person's problem that you'll come across, and a more active person. So I'm yet to see anyone that's sedentary and doesn't involve themselves in sport presenting with any issues around here. I think Ben's totally right. It is a normal anatomical variation, and out of the 25% that will present with this variation, only about a quarter of them will ever have any symptoms. But when it does become symptomatic, then that's when they're going to be coming through our physio doors, and that's when they're going to be asking the questions that we'll
I think the answering from what Matt answered is, patients who come to a clinic usually have chronic, long-standing groin pain. So that's usually the problem, and the pain can be in the front. Usually, can be on the front of the hip, and it can also go on the side, which we call it the C sign. Sometimes it can also go in the back. So the number one symptom is definitely sitting. So usually the patients say to you that have problems driving, sitting, or if they're going to the gym, it's usually problems with the squatting and rowing, things like that, and they might also, have back pain with that. And usually, I don't think there's like one textbook presentation. So it's a mixture picture, but generally, if you have long-standing groin pain, hip impingement could be one of the problems, isn't it?
Exactly right. And I mean, we're seeing people exercise later in life now as well, aren't we? How would you differentiate? I mean, I think it's really common that you sometimes get people that could have early OA, doing a lot of sport, doing a lot of exercise. How would you differentiate between FAI and OA, for example?
Yeah, it's quite a tricky one because in some people you can have an overlap of these two. But generally, if I'm seeing a bit more, middle age, sort of 40, 45 plus, I would suspect more like an arthritis problem rather than a hip impingement. Generally, hip impingement happens between that 20 to 40 age group. And with osteoarthritis of the hip, which is another common reason, generally it's a problem of stiffness.
Sure.
So when they get up in the morning, it's a bit stiff for a few minutes, or they're watching television for a while, it's stiff as well.
Okay.
And when they're putting shoes or socks in the morning, they're having that problem as well. And also another key thing is they respond really well with anti-inflammatory. Okay. So if they're taking a bit of Brufen or something like that, they get some relief. Whereas you might not have such a big improvement with hip impingement. So a little bit older, 40 plus, bit of stiffness. It's very difficult unless you have an X-ray. But generally, if you're seeing that sort of age group, you would think it's most likely to be arthritis rather than hip impingement. So that sort of is what I think. Anything you would say on that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think the only other point to mention is the differences that you get between male and female.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So there's a lot of gender differences. I find, like obviously your young footballer versus your middle-aged kind of exercise class client. So what would you mention on that?
Yeah, I would say more, because I don't deal with professional sports. The majority of my patients are females, so I sort of see between that late 20s and late 30s. There's definitely a gender difference. There have been a few research articles which has looked into those two, and generally you find with females, the pain levels are higher. And usually the disability is higher. They might not have big changes on the scans as well. Whereas males, they might be playing a very high level, but you scan them, it's showing extensive damage. So definitely the gender differences for therapists who are listening to it, it's sort of I'll put the links to the articles on the show notes. So there's definitely a gender difference. So we need to be aware of that, So we don't have to wait till it's so bad to send them for a scan if it's not improving, So you'll always have a high suspicion in a male patient than a female patient. So clearly there's a bit of a difference there. And we're seeing quite a few in our clinic. So in fact, I'm having one today. I'm seeing later with the cam. So you're seeing quite a few in your Hemel as well. How are you finding those sort of?
Yeah, I think that particularly the cams in the males tend to be more damaging to the joint. So when you see the cam, if you remember, we were talking about that's the increased bone on the femoral neck. When you've got a large cam, by the time they present and it's diagnosed, often there is actually some coexisting labral damage and joint pathology as well. So I think you're dead right with the ladies. It tends to be more of a cam mixed presentation, but you can pick them up earlier and they tend to do better conservatively. That's what I find. So
guys, I hope you found it useful. Please, if you've got any questions, I'll be putting that on show notes. Please email at harleystreetphysio@gmail.com, and we are also available for our consultation at Hemel, and we have a running clinic. And can you tell me what are the things you look into the Hemel physio unit?
Yeah, so Hemel Physio is our specialist running unit. So if you have any running related injuries, that's the place to go. We've got the treadmill and the live video analysis. We do the movement screening. We do the tailored running retraining programs as well. Yeah,
and definitely if you're in Central London, and if you're having chronic issues, we're happy to see you in Central London. So guys, that's all from our first episode. Hopefully see you in the next episode. Thank you.